Just like this!
Let's go for a spin!
I'll blow you away! Just try and dodge!
Power!
Explode!
Nice try! Go beyond! Time to get serious!
Have you ever wondered what would happen if the old top 10 heroes of the My Hero Academia universe fought against the new top 10? Does the new generation even have a chance to beat the old guard that brought peace in a world that was on the brink? Well, to answer that, I'm gonna set up a battle between these two generations in 5 stages. The first stage will start with number 10s of each gen fighting. Then, with each stage, we'll add more and more characters until we reach the final stage, and both sides face off with their full strength. Now, some small caveats to this particular video. Some heroes can be found in both of the rankings, and since it won't be all that fun to make them face off against their past selves, we'll keep them in the old generation and replace that hero's ranking with the next one on the list. And we'll be going by the top 10 when All Might was number 1 and at the end of the series. First stage. So we'll start off with the number 10s and 9s of the old and new gen for the first stage. So here comes Manama at number 10, along with Shoji at 9 on the new gen side. Then Gang Orca and Ryuki representing the old gen. Since this battle starts with 2 on each side, Manama isn't helpless from the beginning since his quirk lets him copy other quirks by touching them. This means he now has Shoji's power too. Since they both have some sensory skills, they can find out where their enemies are and try to stealth their way to Gang Orca and Ryuku using their multi-arms to make distracting noises from a distance to keep Gang Orca and his hearing occupied. The thing is, it's still too rookie a move for such experienced heroes to fall for. The old gen would know something's up and be at the ready. But it turns out this was another trick played by Manama in which they made it seem they were heading in one direction with the clicking noises, but they were the distracting noises the whole time. It won't keep them down for long, but it'll occupy them enough for Manama to touch both heroes, and now he has 2 new quirks to use. However, remember that Manama can only hold copied quirks for 5 minutes, so he needs to work fast. Unfortunately for them, Gang Orca's hypersonic blast is dangerous, especially when you have 2 quirk users sporting multiple ears. The new gen is stunned, but not for long, and Shoji unleashes 100 arm barrage to take down Gang Orca. But Ryuki takes the opportunity to bite Shoji's body, which he can't multiply and duplicate. But that leaves Manama free to use Gang Orca's quirk to blast Ryuku and then transform into a dragon and knock her out before his time limit expires. Shoji's out, but so is Ryuku. Gang Orca's already recovered from the shockwave since he has some resistance with it being his quirk and goes to pummel Manama. But it becomes a quick drawn-out fight where, in the end, Manama wins by using tactics and his copied quirks to exhaust and defeat Gang Orca. The new gen wins the first stage. Now, it might come as a shock, but this is the new gen at their prime, so let's see if the old gen can bounce back. Second stage, old gen. We're gonna bring in the second stage of the old gen heroes and add the number 8 Yoroi Musha and the number 7 hero. The problem is that it was never canonically confirmed who the number 7 was before All Might retired, but we can make a guess that it was Mirko, since she was at number 5 or 6 later on, and it would have been a bigger deal in the news if she went from not being on the billboard to jumping that high. The other problem, though, is that we have absolutely no idea what Yoroi Musha's powers are, considering he never actually shows us. He's there and then he's gone. So we'll replace him with another hero from outside the top 10, the washing hero, Wash. So the video just makes more sense. Now, the battle's already taking a different turn with the sheer numbers alone, but Mirko's rapid speed and crazy strength means that she can rush ahead and face them on her own, which she does, considering how she just loves soloing enemies. This puts their teamwork on the back foot as they rush to make sure she isn't beaten. This distraction is enough for Manama to capitalize on the chaos to hide the 2 of them and sneak to one of the weaker heroes. Since Wash just looks like a washing machine mascot, they'll go for him. But they're in for a surprise when he creates powerful bubbles that trap them and gives his team enough time to beat the hell out of Manama and Shoji, giving a win to the old generation. With a 1-1 tie, it's time for the new gen to get their own backup. Second stage, new gen. Introducing their numbers 8 and 7. Since Wash isn't in the new gen roster anymore, we'll bring in number 8, which isn't officially confirmed, so let's use Kirishima at number 12 as a strong representative. With him is Nijiri from number 7. Now this fight will be a close one since most of the heroes have trained to use teamwork to beat the bad guys, so you won't see a lot of solo acts except from Mirko. Manama would be the strategist for the new gen heroes and try to create a strategy with Kirishima as the tank using his hardening quirk, Shoji as the scout, and Nijiri as the main damage dealer. Manama will hang back as the support and using his copy quirk where he can. Then the old gen heroes would try to make a similar strategy, but Mirko would just rush off alone and the other 3 would simply follow after since none of them have have the leadership qualities to take charge in this situation, and Mirko just doesn't give a damn. So this early flaw really turns the tables on them, since despite having some heavy hitters on their team, a good strategy is enough to take down anyone. Manama would first focus on Gang Orca because of his hypersonic stun, which Nijiri handles from a distance since it's not as effective. Meanwhile, Mirko would be occupied by Kirishima, who can withstand her powerful kicks with his hardening, while Ryuku and Wash deal with Manama and Shoji. Shoji uses his dupla arms to create giant appendages to stop Ryuki, but Wash blasts water streams to slow them down and gives Ryuki time to dodge. But the point of all of it was to give Manama time to copy their quirks and bring down Wash so he can use his quirk to trap Ryuku in some bubbles. With them out of the way, they go to help the rest of the team since Mirko's too fast for Kirishima to hit, and he can't keep blocking forever. Nijiri would beat Gang Orca with her energy waves, and the new gen would gang up on Mirko and beat her. So it's another win for the new gen heroes. And I gotta say, can the old gen bounce back again? Well, let's see. Third stage, old gen. Well, we get to the third stage of the old generation, where we add the number 6 hero, Crust, and the number 5 hero, Edge Shot. Now these guys are honestly hella strong and were part of major villain confrontations. Manama would come up with a similar strategy, but try to have his team group up and go after one hero at a time, trying to stay stealthy. The problem is you can't be stealthier than a ninja, and Shoji's sensory skills aren't good enough to catch Edge Shot, who immediately goes for the ringleader, Manama. He uses his fold-a-body quirk to turn himself thin as paper and pierces one of Manama's pressure points enough to knock him out, but not kill him. That's when Edge Shot straight up disappears, leaving the new gen in shambles as they panic over Edge Shot's sudden arrival, and that gives the other team the perfect opportunity to go ham on the new gen. Mirko starts jumping and kicking, taking Nijiri by surprise, knocking her out. Any attacks headed their way are blocked by Crust's shield quirk, while Gang Orca stuns them when he can, giving the others the opportunity to attack them without any issue. Kirishima then manages to make a last stand and uses the damage he's absorbed with his hardening to make one powerful strike that takes out Ryuku, but by then, he's done for. Falls to Mirko too. The old generation wins this round, giving them their second win so far. This time, they managed to crush the new gen with them not having a single chance to fight back. But can they do it again? Third stage, new gen. That's because as the new generation proceeds with their third stage, there's one problem. Crust and Edge Shot aren't in the new gen rankings since they either died or retired, so who takes their place at numbers 5 and 6? Well, from the epilogue, we know that Deku and Bakugo become top heroes. In the bonus material, Deku debuted at number 4, and Bakugo fluctuated between 4 and 5, and even dropped to 15 due to his attitude issues, but his raw power is undeniable. So we'll place them as the number 5 and 6 slots for this stage. Now, while Deku may have technically lost his quirk, his new suit is supposed to be able to replicate all of his old powers using advanced technology, which is why New Gen is looking deadly as hell. Not to mention, Bakugo has only gotten stronger, and at this point, considering he once went toe-to-toe against Shigaraki for a bit while he was still a teenager, a fully realized Dynamite would be able to handle half of them alone. Then, Deku's new equipment replaces his old powers through advanced support gear, and his obsession with heroes means he knows what all of the old Gen's quirks are capable of, allowing him to take the leadership role, and we all know Manama wasn't happy about that. But anyway, since the two of them are actual adults and not hormonal teenagers, they won't let stupid nonsense get in the way of the mission. Bakugo takes care of Gang Orca, Ryuku, and Wash by using his maneuverability to dodge any trouble he faces, and his explosion quirk is enough to beat anyone he comes across here. Deku would work more with the others to use his suit's Black Whip abilities to bind his opponents, and his Danger Sense feature would warn him of Edge Shot, allowing him to tell the others as Nijiri uses her beams to guarantee a hit on the ninja. The bottom line is, the old generation were beaten in maybe the fastest round possible, and most of their work was done by Bakugo and Deku, giving the new generation their third win. And I mean, can the old gen even score a point after this? And also, if you don't want Deku and Bakugo to rip you to shreds like the old gen, you should hit the subscribe button, thank you. But anyway, let's continue. Fourth stage, old gen. Now, the old gen still has some deadly fighters up their sleeve with the fourth stage unlocked, and now they have their number 4 hero, Best Jeanist, and the number 3 hero, Hawks. Now, Hawks is easily the fastest hero in the series, minus Lyta in full gear, and his feathers have excellent sensory abilities, allowing him to keep an eye on any trouble. On the other hand, Best Jeanist can control the threads of clothes to trap and restrain enemies. But will that be enough? Manama would copy Bakugo's quirk, and the two of them would cause chaos on the field and rely on their maneuverability to escape trouble. But Best Jeanist's quirk would allow him to restrain restrain them if they get too close, which he does. Hawks moves in quickly along with Mirko, who goes straight for Deku. Meanwhile, Hawks goes after Shoji to disrupt the team's senses. Deku will be occupied for a while, but Nijiri will go ahead and use her Nijiri Flood to attack Gang Orca again and take him out with sheer power. Then, Bakugo doesn't stay restrained for long as he blinds his enemies with a flashbang and uses a howitzer impact to take down Best Jeanist during the confusion. Then, to counter this, Edgeshot makes a calculated strike to damage Bakugo, taking him out of the equation. But he doesn't stay around for long as Manama uses this as an opportunity to take down the ninja. So this leaves Mirko, Ryuku, Crust, Wash, and Hawks on the old gen, and Deku, Nijiri, Manama, and Kirishima on the new gen. Mirko is then soon beaten by Deku, and Hawks tries to take Kirishima out, but the hardening hero withstands the feather strikes long enough for Deku to handle the others with ease. So in the end, despite being outnumbered, the old gen lost and the new generation now have 4 wins on their belt. And even with the numbers on their side, the old gen still couldn't win. So let's add some more. 5th stage, old gen. Okay, this is the final stage for the old generation heroes of My Hero Academia. This is their last stand before utter defeat. But never fear, for he is here, the symbol of peace, All Might. Oh, and Endeavor too, I guess. Now, this is All Might, who is still in his hero prime. Well, as prime as he can be after suffering that injury from All for One, he still has his powers and is the active #1 hero, which means he's still a massive threat. And Endeavor's at #2, constantly chasing All Might's shadow, but incredibly powerful in his own right. And at this point, there's no coordination, it's pure chaos, since the heroes on both sides are so strong that regular planning won't work. So it comes down just to who punches who harder. Manama tries to copy Endeavor's quirk, but the guy has crazy good reflexes and blasts him out of the match instantly. Hawks flies through the battlefield to take out any stragglers, but finds himself strapped in a web of arms by Shoji, limiting his movement with Kirishima there to beat him down. As the fight continues, it becomes a standoff between Deku versus All Might and Bakugo versus Endeavor. The others face off in all sorts of battles, but the tide is looking like it's in the old generation's favor just from sheer numbers and raw power. Deku and All Might would go crazy hard in a fight, as Deku has studied All Might's every move to an obsessive degree. The other important thing is that while Deku's suit replicates many of his former abilities, he's facing the symbol of peace himself, the man who held villain activity at bay through sheer presence alone. All Might's experience and devastating power makes this an incredibly difficult battle for Deku. The fight between Bakugo and Endeavor is interesting though, because Bakugo was nearly at a pro hero level when he was a kid, and has only gotten stronger since. However, Endeavor at #2 in his prime is a beast with incredible firepower and combat experience. I have to say that this fight could go either way, but Bakugo's adaptability and explosive power gives him a slight edge. Then, through intense combat and teamwork, both Deku and Bakugo manage to overcome their legendary opponents. It's not easy, and in fact, it's the hardest fight of the entire competition. All Might pushes Deku to his absolute limits, and Endeavor nearly burns Bakugo to a crisp multiple times, but the new gen's experience fighting world-ending threats like Shigaraki and All for One has prepared them for this moment. And after the dust is settled, at this point, the rest of the old gen are beaten, with only Mirko, Best Jeanist, and Hawks still standing. It was tough, but Deku and Bakugo, with some support from Nijiri, managed to beat them, making this a complete win for the new generation of heroes. And they didn't even get to their 4th stage with Shoto. Alright folks, come here, let me tell you something. So the thing is that after the war, the quality of the heroes and their quirks have gone through some amazing changes, and each of them have plenty of experience in real fights against truly deadly opponents, while the old gen, despite All Might's incredible strength, were in a relatively peaceful time. But who do you think would win? Let us know in the comments below. As always, make sure to like, press the button, subscribe, and if you enjoy the video, check out this one where I find out what would happen if the villains from the old generation fought the villains of the new generation. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!